Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions, the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, news, sports, lifestyle, everything really, depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. You will recognize my guest from Cobra Kai. Season 3 just dropped on Netflix. He plays Anoush. Dan Ahdoot is with us. Dan, welcome to Popternative, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
We expected it to be insane, but it launched and it's insane. Like it's crazy.
I mean, I'm getting like DMs from people in Pakistan being like, "This is the best show ever." I'm getting DMs from all over the world. It is amazing.
It's incredible. We're going to get into it, but I find it very interesting too, because for people that kind of follow you, you do a lot of stand-up comedy, but you also act as well. And I'm just curious about that in terms of kind of the kind of transition or kind of decision, because I find that they go hand in hand now, the stand-up comedy and the acting. Like that's kind of an interesting kind of tag team as well, the tandem.
You know, it's funny because I can link it all to how I got Cobra Kai. Because I started doing stand-up comedy about 20 years ago, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And John Hurwitz, who's one of the creators of Cobra Kai, his sister started dating my best friend. Mm-hmm. And so we sort of became friends. And this was like just when Harold and Kumar came out. Yeah. And John's sister ended up marrying my buddy, and at their wedding, I was kind of like the MC for the rehearsal dinner, and I was basically just doing stand-up and introducing people and this and that, and he came up to me after, and Hayden was there too, and they were like, "You're hilarious, we have to put you in something." And so basically, like, what is it? That was like probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and here we are.
Absolutely, and it's cool because, you know, and Anoush was like around, like from the start, right? Like we saw you in season 1 and we saw you in season 3, and it's just crazy because I kind of tried. I don't know about you, but like,
you left out season 2 where I get my ass kicked by Johnny.
Season 1, season 2, and then
my favorite scene in the whole show, man. Season 2, I get my ass kicked by Johnny. I've been dreaming about that moment for my whole life.
What was that kind of like preparing for that? What was the preparation of that scene? I feel like you properly prepared for like that scene.
Dude, first of all, when I read that, I was like, oh my God, like the 10-year-old boy in me just like lost his mind. But you know, I got to work that day, and there was another guy there who looked a lot like me, wearing the same exact suit as me. He was a stunt double. Mm-hmm. He was skinnier and hotter, but still close enough. And they were like, "Okay, this is gonna be your stunt double. He's gonna do that." And I was like, "Can I do it myself?" And they're like, "No, we have liability stuff and this and that. Unless you have like a martial arts background or something." And I was like, "Oh, I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu." And they were like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Okay, you can do it." So they let me do. So that is actually me getting thrown on that car and getting the shit kicked out of me.
It's insane because I've spoken to, you know, a few people like, you know, Joe Sa, who plays Kyler, and Gianni DeCenzo, who's Dimitri, about like the whole fight sequences. And like, you know, a lot of people watch the show now, but like, you know, season 2 had that huge school fight scene, and then like the house fight scene in season 3. I mean, it just kind of takes it to a whole new level, which is insane.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, you always think like, how are they going to one up the last season? But they do.
They do.
They really do.
Absolutely.
But I will say, after doing my own scene with Billy Zabka, he really gets into it, you know, and he was really twisting my fucking arm behind my back. And by like the 10th take, I was like, "Man, I should have used the stunt guy. This is a very aggressive."
It's funny too. A similar thing too is Gianni DeCenzo told me about that scene he did with Martin Cove, where he goes in and then you just see he has a bloody nose and everything. And he's like, even though we actually didn't do any like the fight scenes, it's like that scene felt like he actually just like punched me in the face because he's just looking at me the whole time.
Dude, it's funny because I've never worked on a drama before. Like this is kind of a dramedy, but I've always worked on comedies. And so when you worked with actors who were like super intense and stuff, like it scares you. You're like, oh, okay, I guess we're really acting. Okay, all right.
Absolutely. There's another quick Anoush thing I want to get to because there's other things we want to talk to, but I find it interesting because you did mention it's a drama, and I find it interesting because, even in season 3, Anoush has some lines that are some zingers and some funny stuff, but I do want to say that the scenarios that Anoush are in this season are more serious, right? He has to kind of break it to Daniel that his businesses could be in shambles. Like it's more serious, your role in this season compared to other seasons, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I don't want to say that I'm responsible for saving LaRusso Auto.
You are responsible.
But if it wasn't for Anoush, this whole show would be over.
And if it wasn't for Anoush, he wouldn't go back to Okinawa and we wouldn't see Chosen, which was like one of the coolest things in the whole show. I'm sorry.
Exactly, which is why I came onto this podcast to basically say to all of you, you're welcome.
How the Chosen stuff was unreal.
Oh my God, it was so crazy. It was so crazy, man.
It is super crazy.
By the way, and the hardest part is that we knew all this stuff and we had to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Like, knowing that Elizabeth Shue was going to be in the season and having to keep that a fucking secret was like the hardest thing in the world.
But the thing is, again, and I went in as fresh as I could with season 3 because I'm also like genuinely a fan of the show. But like the theories and the spoilers of the fans are amazing, but they're passionate. They really get into it. And like I wanted to go in as fresh as I could. You know what I mean? But
I mean,
there were sprinkles about like Chosen and Elizabeth Shue, right? There were some.
I mean, to tell you the truth, though, and I think if you ever speak to one of the creators, you should ask them this. But I think that they sprinkled Elizabeth Shue at the end of season 2 without knowing if they were going to be able to get her for season 3.
That's interesting.
So that might have been a way to kind of twist her arm. Like, come on, we already wrote you in, so you might as well join.
Cobra Kai is also a little bit of like a full circle kind of back to the roots thing too, because you worked on a lot of really cool projects. One project that we talked about before is you worked on Kicking It on Disney XD as Falafel Phil, which is like, man. Dude, so like such a funny character, like the best.
I mean, it's sort of racist in hindsight, but still, very fun. But I will say this though, it's very funny to see people make those connections now, because a lot of the Cobra Kai fans used to watch Kicking It when they were younger, and so they're like, wait a second, is Falafel Phil Anoush? Like, does this guy only do karate-based shows?
I recognized you from Kicking It. That's how I recognized you.
So it's really funny. I'm like blowing people's minds on Twitter.
But the karate thing is interesting too, because it's like it's another project and they're both karate.
That's it, man. You got to find your niche. You got to find your lane and stay in it.
It's really, really cool. And, you've been busy with a lot of other things. I mean, which is exciting. I mean, Cobra Kai's on Netflix. Another thing coming on Netflix in February, a Kevin James sitcom, The Crew. You're going to be in that.
I am. I'm very, very excited about that. I actually found out about that while I was on the set of Cobra Kai. And I was talking to Ralph Macchio about it because he's friends with Kevin James. And I was like, yeah, I really hope I get it and this and that. And anyway, Ralph was one of the first people I told that I got it to, and he was very happy for me.
And we obviously, like, because, there's not a trailer yet, but like, I mean, what are you able to say about the show that you're kind of allowed to say, like about what it's kind of, what can we expect from The Crew? Sure.
It's different from any other sitcom that's out there in that it's a sitcom about a NASCAR pit crew. So it's really, really fun. NASCAR is actually one of the producers on the show, so it's super legit. We get a lot of the real racers on the show as well. And the actors in it are just like really amazing comedic actors. The writers are fantastic. Kevin James is one of the funniest people I've ever worked with. So it's, I think I feel very optimistic about it.
No, absolutely. And I mean,
although I don't do karate in it, so it probably is going to get canceled.
It's true. I mean, you also are like, this is like Popternative is like, I'm a podcast, but because I'm video and I'm on YouTube, I'm like a talk show as well. People can listen to it on Spotify as like the podcast as well. You also have a podcast, Green Eggs and Dan, about food. Green Eggs and Dan. That's a mouthful.
Green Eggs and Dan. It's my food podcast where basically I interview celebrities. And it's all just based on their relationship to food. Yeah. And each episode starts with an actual picture of the inside of their fridge. And I've had actually Cobra Kai wise, I've had Josh Heald on. He was in season 1. He was a guest, very funny guest, one of the creators of Cobra Kai. And tomorrow, I don't know, when is this podcast coming out? Or when is this coming out?
Probably ASAP, because Cobra Kai is fresh.
Yeah. Exactly. So tomorrow or Wednesday, Brett Ernst is going to be the guy who plays Louis is going to be a guest.
Funny.
What you will realize from that podcast is that my relationship with Brett Ernst in real life is exactly like our relationship on Cobra Kai.
Oh my God. Yeah. Your line, the specific line, like, I trained you. Your line just killed me.
Dude, he's so weird. You know, it's funny because I didn't really know Brett that well when we started. I knew of him in the comedy world, but then we lived in the same hotel room in Atlanta shooting Cobra Kai. And we'd come home together and be like, so what are you doing tonight? I'm like, I don't know. What are you doing? And we ended up going out to eat every night. And we became very, very close friends. But we literally, all we do is bust each other's balls every second that we're together.
But exactly. That's basically Louis and Anoush do that on the show. That's literally what you guys do.
100%.
It's crazy to see the instant kind of hit that Netflix has with shows. Like I watch shows on a lot of networks, but it just seems like a Netflix show comes out. Like I saw it with Outer Banks during the pandemic in March, right? Like a show gets posted, Cobra Kai hasn't even been out for a week.
Well,
and it's crazy.
It's crazy. I think that Netflix is such a powerhouse, and since the pandemic, I think they've like quadrupled the amount of subscribers they have. And also the thing you have to understand about shows that are on Netflix that's different from shows that are on networks is that they translate them into like 100 languages. So it's beamed out into the world. It's not just beamed out into the US. And so you get this momentum going where it's just like, you know, you can't stop it. It's like a snowball effect.
Absolutely.
Especially, but again, there's a lot of shows on Netflix that have tanked. So the show also matters. And Cobra Kai, it just hits all those nostalgia neurons in your brain so perfectly. And
they blend the new characters and the old characters perfectly. It's a perfect blend.
I'm impressed. Look, the guys, the creators, they're like good friends of mine. Yeah. And I'm just like in complete awe of how they're able to kind of weave this story and turn the Karate Kid into basically like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild.
It is wild. And it's also one of those things where like you said, it has a lot of different elements, and although we laugh at some parts, you know what I mean, it has a lot of the drama. And I think so. What was that kind of like work? Like you mentioned a little bit before, but you know, your niche is obviously comedy and stand-up comedy, and you're doing a drama. Was it kind of like a little bit different in terms of preparing and like reading scripts? Like, was that whole process different for Ahdoot, or was it just kind of like the same, but just the genre kind of changed a little bit?
I mean, you know, it's funny. I think that if you're good at comedy, you can be good at drama, because I think that what comedians are very good at is like reading the room and reading the emotions. And I feel like, you know, we add like an element of realism that even drama actors can't necessarily do, because we're all about timing, right? Comic timing, and bringing that to drama is really interesting. But again, it's like, I honestly was more inspired by the people that I worked with than anything, you know, like just being able to act alongside Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka and Courtney, who plays Ralph's wife. I mean, they're just so good that you just want to up your game.
Oh, absolutely. And do you find it kind of exciting too, where obviously you mentioned there's, you know, Billy and Ralph Macchio, like the main characters of Cobra Kai, but then there's so many other cool characters, because like there's so many characters that show up, like Anoush and Louis and everything, and it's just exciting that we saw a glimpse of everyone that we kind of love since season 1 and season 3 of Cobra Kai. Like everyone kind of showed up, which is amazing.
Amazing, and again, it's a testament to this show. Like a lot of us have other projects going on, but like we tell I've told my reps, I'm like, you are carving out time for Cobra Kai. This is something that I just have to be a part of, you know?
Do you feel like that's kind of a little bit? It's interesting you say that because I often ask sometimes, like when I did the show, I wanted to do like behind the scenes. What are some stuff that you could tell my viewers that they might not realize, right? So I always ask like the misconception entertainment industry question, right? Do you think that's a misconception too, where people don't realize that like if someone's like removed from a show or someone does not return to a movie sequel or something, that it's not necessarily maybe like beef or anything, it's just the timing didn't work out? Like I feel like people don't realize that it's a business that happens sometimes.
You know, a lot of time it is the timing, but a lot of times it is the attitude of the actor. And I think that a good rule for life and for being an actor is just be fucking nice. And you'd be surprised at how many people can't do that. And the truth is, coupling just be fucking nice, and also anyone is replaceable. You know, when Charlie Sheen got fired from 2.5 Men, he's one of the men in the title 2.5 Men. If he could be replaced, when that happened, I was like, okay, if that guy can be replaced, anyone can be replaced. So it's just like, as much as we can let our egos get the best of us because we get recognized in the street and people tell us how great we are on Twitter and Instagram, all these things, you got to shut that shit down when you go to work, and you got to be grateful as hell to get to even get the call.
So my viewers, listen to Anoush, okay? Not only did he save Miyagi-Do and LaRusso Otto, he knows what he's talking about. So
I'll save your career. I'll save your acting career also.
Dan, thank you so much for joining me on Popternative. I really appreciate it, man.
Yo, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. I'm glad we made this happen so quickly.
Absolutely. So, so people can watch season 3 of Cobra Kai now on Netflix if they haven't already for like the 9th, 10th time. I know I'm on like the 4th or 5th time. I keep going back because like you watch it, you binge it, but you want to go back to make sure you're not missing anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm on my second go around myself.
And where can people check out the podcast?
So you can listen to the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just type in Green Eggs and Dan. And if you want the Cobra Kai episodes, Brett Ernst is coming out tomorrow, so you can listen to Anoush and Louie. Go at it. And then you can follow me on all of the socials at Stand Up Dan on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, your pinned tweet right now from the quarantine is like the funniest thing of all time.
Dude, it's at 8 million views.
There's so much going on, but the thing is, I dissect a lot. I'm a big thinker, right? And I like notice a lot of things. There's so much going on in that video, man. Like we could do another interview just about that video. I've noticed so many things. There's like a little smirk from your mom that you don't realize. Like there's so much going on.
Yes, I you know what, better than talk about it, I urge you guys to just check out the pinned tweet on my Twitter at StandUpDan.
Absolutely. All the best also with The Crew coming out February on Netflix too, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I'll come back. We'll talk about that one.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Dan Ahdoot and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.